Welcome to Artistic Adventures. This is part 4 of our Cleopatra doll project, and we're going to be working on costume and jewelry. I'm kind of lumping everything together because there's so much to do for this doll, and it's pretty complicated, a lot of gluing and weighting and that sort of thing. So this will be part 1. All right, so we have our doll, and we have her face up, we have her wig done, and we're going to be working on several things at one time because we need to let things dry, glue dry, different things. One of the things we're going to start with is this collar that we're going to make. It's going to be very bejeweled, and her dress will attach to that, so that's why I want to start with it. I've got alpaca fiber everywhere from this wig. I keep brushing it off. And this is a pattern I made for the front of the dress. It's going to be split down the middle, and it'll attach to the collar up at the top and then wrap around about halfway to the back, so the back will have a very low cut, and then we'll attach the skirt to that in another video. So I took the satin that I had chosen and I put some fray check around on all the edges because this material does tend to unravel. And I used a thin paintbrush just to put a very small amount. I didn't want it to leach in because I'm going to try to make a very small fold with this material, and I don't want it to be discolored by the fray check. So I'm letting that dry, and also the shoes that she was wearing I kind of like. I'm going to try to do some things to them. Also, she came with this arm cuff that I want to make use of, and also these winged looking earrings. They sort of look like the wings of the vulture that they used in some of their crowns and things. So we're going to be working on those and letting paint dry as we work on other things. I'm cutting off the top of the jewel that's on that toe piece because it's raised up, and I want to put an actual crystal on there, so I'm cutting that top off just to make it flat, and then when we paint it, it'll be a nice flat surface for us to put a Swarovski crystal on. And I'm using this gold acrylic paint that I got at Michael's. It works really well, but I do tend to have to use 2 or 3 coats. So we're going to coat the earrings, the arm cuff, and the shoes, and then we'll work on some other things. We'll come back to these in a little while and do some more coats and put some of our embellishments on them. So just coating them up the first time, and I like these shoes because they kind of look like basket weave on the heel, and they did come with this doll, so I guess they're sort of evocative of Egyptian clothing. I don't know, maybe not, but I do like that they're sandals, which I do believe she would have worn. And of course, with the Monster High dolls, they're so high-heeled that you're stuck sometimes with your shoe choices. She probably would have worn more of a flat sandal, or certainly less of a heel than this. So just putting pretty much gold paint everywhere, and I think the cuff had kind of dried. This paint dries pretty fast. I really like it. It's very shiny and gold looking. It really does look like gold when you get it painted. And it works well for some jewelry and other items. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to start gluing this gold braid to the edge of the collar. I want to give it a more finished look. And I have to do this in pieces because it's round, and it will unravel if I try to put it all the way around on the outside. And so as I do painting, I'm going to let sections of this collar dry, and then I'll be able to at least get some things done while it's drying. So I did that. I put some more coats on everything, and I got this collar done, both the inside and outside, with the gold braid. And now I have a multitude of color Swarovski crystals that I'm going to use to embellish it. And this little scarab that came off of the doll's original costume, I want to make use of. Scarabs were really big in that culture, and I really like that. I didn't want to waste it, so I'm going to put that right in the middle of the collar. And then we're going to use our Swarovski crystals to really bling it out and make it rich and queenly looking. So I'm just taking this point tool, and I'm putting a strip of the glue that I picked up on the point of it down putting a line of it down, and then I'm going to put 4 crystals of different colors, and I'm just being very random. I'm going to do that on either side of that scarab, and not doing it in any particular order, really trying to be very random. But I love the way the crystals look. Fake stones just don't look as well. I really like the shine from the crystals, and that's why I always try to use them if I can afford them. I do have quite a few of these on hand from past projects. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put a dab of glue on that toe top that we cut off to make flat, and I'm going to put a green, emerald green crystal on that. And we're going to also do that to the other shoe, and we'll set those aside and let them dry if they'll stand up. And then we're going to go back and do some more crystals on that collar. I'm going to put rows coming down from the top, and I finished it up off camera, but this is how it looks. I think it turned out really pretty, and it's going to look great with her costume. So I'm going to let that dry because I'm going to have to end up bending it at the shoulders, and I don't want to do it while it's wet. So in addition to the shoes, I also put crystals down the cuff, also just a variety of colors. She would have all sorts of jewels, I'm sure. And then I put the same emerald green crystals on the top of the earrings. And you can't really see it in here, but I did make some black marks that are sort of like feathers. So here's that edge that's going to be in the very front, and I was thinking about how to do this, so I took my clay tool that has a sharp side and a dull side, and I put the dull side down because I really want to try to have a very tiny little fold over, and I'm trying to iron that over on that piece of metal, thinking it might heat up and help. Actually, I don't think it helped that much. And I'm going to use this liquid stitch. It's made by the same company that makes the fray check. I've never used it before, but I'm going to try it and see how it works because A, I don't think I could stitch this on my sewing machine. It's so narrow. And B, I broke the cord that attaches my presser foot to my sewing machine. So I had to order a new one, and it will be here next week. And that's one of the reasons I'm not going to be working on some parts of the dress tonight, but the main reason is that I really kind of need to do this prep work first. So now we have a nice finished edge on that center part of the front, and I'm going to go ahead and fold over the side part, and I just try to be very careful and not burn my fingers, and ironed that over so I could get a nice fold, put some more of that liquid stitch and pressed it down, and that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side as well, same procedure, just turning over a little teeny tiny little fold over, then pressing it down with the iron, and then using the liquid stitch. And I'm doing both the side part and the front part. The top will be glued under the necklace, so I don't have to worry about that, and the bottom will be under the bodice. So now under the skirt. So now we have our two pieces that are going to be attached to this. And so I want to just kind of eyeball it with the doll and see how far up I need to put them into the collar and how that's going to work. You can see this is going to take some time to get it to bend correctly, but we'll get there eventually. If not, I'll just glue it down. That's what I usually do. All right, so I think I've kind of figured out how far up these need to go, and I'm going to put some E6000 on the very top that will go under the collar to glue that down. And I'm putting a pretty good amount just because that collar's made out of felt, and it does tend to soak up the glue a little bit. And I definitely want to make sure this sticks. I got a little speck of dirt there I want to get off. So now I want to position this how I want it, fairly close together. Just a slit that will come down the center of her chest, and then get it evened up so that scarab is right in the middle, and then press the collar down. And that's going to be the top of the dress. and we'll work on the rest of that later after this is dried. I want to make sure this is completely dry so when I'm manipulating it with the skirt, it doesn't fall off. So I think that's coming along nicely. I'm really happy with how that looks. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start work on the headpiece. I'm not going to be able to finish it in this video, but I'm going to use a piece of gold wire that will be the framework because I'm going to make it out of clay. So I'm just going to measure it around her head loosely. I don't want it to be very tight at this point because the clay will add something to the inner dimension. And then I also want to glue hair to the inside. So kind of want it to be a little loose at this point. So I'm curving that top part that you see me working on there to make the cobra head. And then I'll bring it around and wrap that end around the base of the cobra to secure it. And then that'll be the framework of the headpiece. So I think I've got it about where I want it. And now what I want to do is roll out some clay and start molding it to the wire. And I'm using Primo by Sculpey. You don't want to use a really soft clay. This one almost became too soft after I worked with it a while, and that's just the thing. If you keep working with it, it's going to get softer and softer. Sometimes you have to stop and let it cool down a little bit to get the shape back. So I'm just going to cut a strip that I think is the size to just fold over the wire and make a headband. And just going to cut this whole thing. I'm not sure exactly how much I need. This is a real pretty gold, sort of a metallic looking clay. It's really nice. I think it'll look pretty, but I am going to be painting a lot of it, so I just wanted what shows through to be gold. So this will be good. And you may notice my hand's working a little bit better. I have been working on getting it back in motion and get it a little bit stronger. It still shakes some, and I still have a little bit of issues with control, but it's doing much, much better. I'm really pleased so far. And now I'm just pressing that clay around the wire. I'll put it down on the table on the base so it'll make it flat across the bottom. And I'm taking another piece of that strip that I rolled out and wrapping it around the wire that will be the cobra head. And then I can start sculpting the shape of the snake. So I'm just going to press that down and then just start molding it with my fingers. I did use some tools after a while because there's some point that you get to where you can't exactly reach where you want to press it. So you're going to need some tools. Plus, if you have any length of fingernails at all, sometimes your fingernails will dig into the clay and make an indentation where you don't want it. So sometimes you just have to use tools. Basically, I'm narrowing the base and then widening the head to make the hood of the cobra and trying to curve it so that it, looks the way those crowns did back then. I looked at a lot of different crowns. They wore different types of crowns, like vulture heads and with the wings coming down the sides and different things. But she seems to be mostly seen with the cobra, so that's what I want to do because that's how I see her. And a lot of this is just my vision. So it's my own little style. So now I'm just using this tool. It's got a round head. This is my favorite clay tool. And using it to smooth out areas. Making sure that I've got all the edges blended together. I had a little piece in the back that the wire was showing through, so I had to put a little dab of clay on that and press that down. And making sure the head is curved the way I want it. And then when I paint it, it'll be nice and smooth and it'll look more realistic. So I think I've got the head just about where I want it. There's one more element that I want to add. I want to add a tail to the front so it looks like it's curling around the front of the cobra. So I made a piece of clay. I rolled that out where it's thicker on one end and then it gets more narrow down to a point on the other end, like the snake of a tail. And then I'm just sort of wrapping this around, not in a symmetrical way, but how it might look if it was really a snake. I think it'll look really good when we paint it. So that's how that looks. Now I have to bake that for 30 minutes. And so here's where we are at the end of this video. We have the collar and the top of the dress made, and we'll make sure that's nice and dry before we work with it. I'm real happy with how that turned out. We have the shoes ready, nice painted, and have their green jewel. We did the cuff with the jewels on that. And of course we did the earrings with the wing design and the emerald on that. And now we have the headpiece. So the headpiece, I'm going to have to sand inside. It's a little bit smaller than I wanted it to be. It fits her pretty much perfectly right now, but I've got to glue this track of hair inside to make the braids. So I'll probably sand down inside of this a little bit to make it a little bit thinner. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that hair down, and then I'll be ready to braid it in the next video and put some beads on it and make her fancy headdress. So that's kind of where we are at this point for this video. We have lots more coming up. I don't know if I'll finish in the next video or not. I'm hoping I can, but if not, it would probably just be 2 more. So make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. I don't want you to miss a thing. Bye.